Welcome to the podcast of the Consortium for History of Science, Technology, and Medicine.
Welcome to a session of the Early Career DST workshop series, in which we'll be discussing collaborative research in writing. So we have three guests today, Professor Olival Freire Jr., a professor for history of science and professor of physics as well at the Federal University of Bahia, and the director of the National Council for Scientific Research in Brazil. We also have Roberto Lalli, who is assistant professor in history of science and technology at the Polytechnico di Torino in Italy, and principal investigator of the research project FusEUrope. And we have Jinyan, who is full professor at the Institute of the History of Natural Sciences of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, and vice chair of the Department of History of International Science and Technology. We'd like to thank you three very much for accepting to join us to discuss your experiences with collaborative research, and we hope we'll have a wonderful session. Barbara, would you like to add your perspectives on the session?
Yeah, just thanks everyone for joining us to this session today, which is the fifth of total 7. So these are a bit the general questions that we would like to ask, and it's maybe also framing the goal of today's session. Why should we even collaborate? And also there's different forms of collaboration. And is there any kind of best practice? Is there any way that collaborations work? How things can be dealt with? What are limits and limitations of collaboration, and so on. And so we really are looking forward to having 3 guests from 3 different continents to shed light on these different questions.
We would like to remind you again how you can use the opportunities of this working group to get involved in your field of expertise. You can search for the fitting committee. The DHST is composed of several committees in different areas of history of sciences, different subfields. Please look for which of the committee that is more fitting to your research, and register, sign up for newsletters and email lists to get the informations and opportunities that these commissions and committees provide.
Hello, everyone. I would like to thank you, Clemério and Barbara, for the invitation for this nice discussion. And I like it very much, the fact that the 3 of us, we are from different contexts, from different countries, but we are also from different stages in academic career. I'm the older, the oldest. And from this point of view, I would say that probably my only advantage from age is that in this time of my professional life, I had more opportunities to experience this challenge, the challenge of collaborating. So I begin saying a few words about my own experience, my own career, and then I go to 3 lessons or 3 thoughts I have about these subjects. So first one, I have now, I began my PhD in 1990. So far, I have 35 years in the road. What I can say in then, in addition, I came from a background in physics where it was very common, very widespread, the idea of collaboration. And then I moved to history of science, where collaboration were not so common as they were in physics. Then my background, I had this mixed background. But my own experience, I would say that since my PhD studies, I began to write papers. Some were single author, but others were co-author. During my PhD studies, I wrote a few papers co-authored with my doctoral supervisor and colleagues at the time, and I kept this feature in my whole professional life. I would say, for instance, that three of my best papers were co-authored. The most cited single paper in the field of history and science teaching was co-authored. So when I said three of my best papers, I want to say, for instance, two chapters of my book, The Quantum Dissidents, was they came from a collaboration with other colleagues. And more recently, I had two good experiences of collaboration. One organizing a huge volume, the Oxford Handbook of the History of Quantum Interpretations, and more recently, a paper, an essay co-authored with my colleague Tiago Hartz, which was published in Nature during these commemorations of the quantum century, quantum year. So, but I also needed to say that I also had a meaningful number of failed attempts to collaborate. So, not all of my projects of collaboration were fruitful. Some of them, they just did not result in some positive manner. But I would say that from my own experience, I also had the experience to interact with people even when we did not write together a paper. For instance, one of my best collaborators in life was Anya Jacobsen. She wrote a biography of Leon Rosenfeld. I wrote a biography of David Bohm. Both of these biographies were opposed in their own lives. And then we have collaborated through this whole period. However, we never wrote together a piece of paper. The same happens with David Kaiser, who is one of my best collaborators in the sense that he reads my papers. I had the chance and the opportunity to read his how the hip saved physics when I was in the US. Just by instance, it was the time I met Roberto Lalli. And this was a wonderful experience, but we never wrote together a piece of paper. Now, from this experience, what lessons I can take? I will focus my advices, if I can use this word, in which concerns collaborations related to writing books and chapters, or books and papers in specialized vehicles. So I'm not talking about collaboration in projects or in edited books, because I think that when it concerns projects or edited books, it's easier to understand the importance of collaboration. Then I will focus my lessons, my thoughts on collaboration in writing papers or in writing chapters, articles, chapters of books. I have three conclusions, three advices. First one, collaboration is very, very important in our profession. And the main reason is that expertise and archival sources, or sources in general, are not even shared by all players in this field of history of science. Then it's usual when you join to have a collaboration, that each part has his or her own expertise, or sometimes access to some sources. For instance, I have one paper written with Alex de Graaf and Oswaldo Pessoa, and the basis of this paper was that Alex de Graaf, he had sources, archival sources that we did not have access, and Oswaldo Pessoa had an expertise in the subject. The subject was related to the quantum measurement problem. And I had other expertise, and it was a very fruitful collaboration. So, my first conclusion, look for collaboration, because in our field, it's almost impossible you have all expertise and the access to all relevant sources for our work. The second lesson, it goes in the opposite direction. And I would like to emphasize this. It's my impression, at least from my lifetime, that the road to become a senior scholar in this field requires some single authorial papers. So if you think that only collective papers would make a career, a name in the field of history of science, I think that this is not right. I think that the idea of a single work, either on a subject or on some approach, historiographical approach or methodological procedures, I think that this is very important. To use this Latin word, I think the opus, I think that history of science requires that you dedicate yourself to an opus in your life. So this is the second advice. And the third last, and the last one, it's the more sensitive. Because from my own experience is the following. Trust in potential partners. Do not hesitate to share sources and references with potential partners. Do not hesitate to talk about your ideas and projects. It's true that you risk to be deceived, and I was deceived in some cases in my life. I shared some truths, some information. In the end of the day, I didn't have the fair recognition. But I think that if you trust in potential partners, you have an important potential gain, because you have chances to succeed. Then my lesson is that do not be afraid of trying to collaborate. Do not be afraid of looking for potential partners. And this movement implicates that you need to share something in the beginning. If you are completely closed to this possibility, it's impossible to collaborate with another person. So the three lessons, just summarizing, collaboration is very important because expertise and sources are not even shared in the history of science. The road to become a senior scholar requires some non-collaborative work. And the third one, trust in the potential collaborators. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Olival, for sharing these great points. Now I would like to invite Roberto Lalli to give you an introductory speech.
Thank you very much, in particular Barbara and Climario, for organizing this. My discussant fellow Jinyan and Olival for sharing this experience with me, and all people here in the virtual room. And I take a moment to share a PowerPoint which I prepared mostly to be sure that I don't forget anything I actually want to share with you today. I agree with what many of the things, all of the things Olival already said. One important point we should be always aware of is that the STEM fields have a long tradition of cooperation while in the history of science, or more generally in the humanities, this is less the case. And this, as Olival has made it clear, is an impact on how collaborative works, in particular co-authored works, are perceived by our community. So the collaboration is always something that may be extremely useful, but it has a sort of still in our field unstandardized practices, unstandardized norms, and even unstandardized or not completely known tools to make the collaboration work more smooth. So basically, I will discuss some of these issues in my intervention, starting from a position which is peculiar, if you wish. I am a scholar whose research interest, one of the research interests, is actually in the history of international cooperation in 20th century physics. And so actually my research interests are also in the norms and practices of cooperation, how they have developed over time, in a particular field, which is of course a STEM field, a natural science field, but of course a repercussion of how I think about collaboration when I practice them today. So you have experiences in very different collaboration environments with very different number of persons involved, goals, but also very different degree of success. As also Olival said, none of them were really successful. And I think I can share with you some of my experiences, but my approach maybe will be also a little bit theoretical, also because I actually studied this kind of subject. So I cannot really separate the scholar from the practitioner now. And I don't even want to do that, because it's actually something that in a way guides. I try to approach the collaboration team I work in. I've been working in since a long time. I also started with physics, but I never worked actually in physics. And when I changed to the history of science, most of my work were done alone. The first papers were single authored, and also many papers afterwards when I started to cooperate more intensively. But since the beginning, I think that I never worked completely alone. So a certain degree of cooperation always have shared my own work. And I think that anybody in the work, even in history of science, which even when you publish your single monograph, has been done completely alone. A certain degree of cooperation is always there. Even whether you think about it or not, you are cooperating with someone at some level or not. Simple, the final outcome might give voice to this cooperation in more complete ways, or might be a single authored book, which of course might be the way that will be important for your advancement in the career, but has been in a way also shaped by the collaboration team you have been building, right? So now I want to share, was to start from one experience which is very recent. There is this project, is a STEM project, a STEM project. It's the Next Generation Event Horizon Telescope, which is the follow-up project. It's still not funded, it's still not there. It's just in the design and project phases, and which is the goal to capture the sharpest image of the black hole. It's the follow-up project of the Event Horizon Telescope, which you know because he published the first image of the black hole. Well, within this group, there is an history, philosophy, and culture working group. It's been under the leadership of Peter Gallison, but with a number of experts or in the humanities or social sciences that are building this working group to support the design phase just from the beginning of this TM project. One of these focus groups within this working group is actually focused on collaboration. I find it very striking. I'm part of this working group and focus group on cooperation. I find it very interesting because it's actually a very self-reflexive exercise. There is a focus group, which is itself a collaboration teams, within a larger cooperation teams, which is a working group that reasons about how the collaboration team can be improved in a STEM project. Now, this is, I leave it here now. I will put some, one in particular, this white paper, I will also share the link, is an open access, is a white paper about the early thought and the early working hypothesis of how humanities and social sciences can support the team, and also the early thoughts and ideas about how we should think about a cooperation team. And this is actually very interesting thought that you can also apply to yourself. Now, I want to share, again, I would be a little bit more theoretical maybe, but maybe it's very nice that there will be different perspectives. Again, starting from my own research also as well, and also practice, but also interest. So in each time of structured research, so when we are more or less within a project, whether it involves or not a co-authorship, which is not necessarily the case. I mean, you can have a project where there are individual projects which are all connected within a larger project. So there may be very different kinds. So whatever the type of project, whenever there is some sort of cooperation which is agreed about by those involved, so I find it very useful, maybe find very useful, to start right from the beginning with a very clear timeline of what are the objects, the goals, the milestones, the deliverables. I mean, this is usually done with a Gantt chart of whatever you can use. This is actually required for some funding agencies in Europe, I think also in other parts, like to promise something. But this is very important because it gives you an agreement all the team members have to agree about or what should be done. But also this is not in the Gantt chart, but should be very clear to all the participants. I think this has been very important in my own experience, and this has not always been the case. And when this didn't happen, the collaboration didn't work very well. So that there should be also very clear pact among team members. So what are the duties? What is the structure? All members should be more well aware of how is the cooperation structure built, and actually a clear credit policy. Because if you don't have them in the beginning, how you basically credit what we are doing in a cooperation team will be appear in publication or other kinds of venues. This is of course something that will create issues to the final outcome of the cooperation. The second important element, which I have been experiencing either in a positive or negative way, so I think that was very important, is the respectful and open culture. This is very important in two senses, in the sense that in a way there should be a way to build communication norms, which might be either in person or by emails or virtual room meetings, or whatever. This depends very much on the goals, on the objectives, on the methods of the projects, which are very different. But there should be communication norms that accept certain degrees of disagreement, not on the structure of the project, which should be agreed about at the beginning, but especially on the research results, how to achieve them, what might be the best method. If there is not such an open questions about the methods that are actually allowed in the communication practice, the team work usually doesn't go well as it might be. And that's important in particular for those who are going to be in a way the PI, the leadership, or when there is a kind of more defined hierarchical structure in projects. So if any of you is going to present a project which involves a team, of course, should be very aware that that's a problem that will involve you, how you organize the communication team and how you can allow for welcoming alternative views, even though are far from your own, right? In order to make the best one for the project win in a discussion, open discussion, a frank discussion. Now, more from the technological side, I've been involved, as I mentioned, in various cooperation teams from very different projects again. And now I think that the most important thing to do right at the beginning, like the absolute priority, I think I will never do now, is to build a shared infrastructure of the project, in particular in the history of science. Like a shared folder. This is probably trivial to you, but man, the basic of possible cooperation, even the cases you're actually working very close together, but the shared folder in which you can share documents when you are them digitized, research plans or outcomes, and also the working papers you're working on, all this should be immediately shared in a way that everybody can access it. Also in the shared folder, if you're working on archival documents that can be shared, that you are allowed to share with the team members, the OCR them to make them searchable, that is incredibly useful to speed up the work in a cooperation team. And this is also true for another kind of software help cooperation, working in cooperation, which is the reference management software. I use Zotero and Dropbox in both cases, but there may be other, that there are many open or free source, free and open sources software that can be used, and they're extremely useful to build a cooperation team on the history of the science. And this is my final point. I experienced very different kind of co-writing, as which Olival mentioned, and had very different experiences. One, there are different issues. It's not always easy to write pieces together. It might be also very complicated. It might be very challenging, but it might be also promising a very great result, as Olival mentioned, with his own papers and publications. So it might be very promising, but it's also very challenging. Some helps might be given by the right tools, which again depends on the methods. That might be, of course, shared document, but if you're using LaTeX Overleaf is a very good open source method that allows you to share immediately comments, thought in a different parts, and then have your own paper separated from the comments. And I'm going to finish, sorry. This is one way to write, having a shared folder. Another way to have a clear division of labor, that everybody does a different piece, but then it should be clear who's going to assemble them together and how the norms and practice should go on to agree everybody on the final results. So there's, I think that at the end, even though there is a clear division of labor, then someone that has the role to make an assembly of the final paper, there should be a way to access the unique documents, so a shared document that eventually should, I think, be an option that should be considered. And finally, there is a very different kind of writing that I experienced. It is very difficult. This is very difficult, and it doesn't work for all the situation, but it might be taken into consideration because it's actually very intriguing. That is actually writing the piece together. There is a projection of the blank paper. There are papers co-writing the paper together, discussing each single sentence. As you can think, it's very time-consuming and it's very challenging. But if you are in a situation where you work closely together in person, of course not virtually, very close together, this might be taken into consideration because it's challenging, but it's also gives a very degree of success or sense of success of writing the paper in thinking any single issue together. Okay, so I think that I'm done. Thank you very much for the attention.
Thank you very much, Roberto. Now we'd like to invite Jinyan. Please, Jinyan.
Okay, thank you, Clamero, and thank you, Barbara, for your invitation and for organizing this wonderful group. So I think Professor Olival and Professor Roberto Lalli are distinguished historian of physics, both with extensive experience in collaborative research, particularly in international collaboration. So firstly, please allow me to share a bit more about myself. Frankly speaking, I have no long-term study experience abroad. I got my PhD in theoretical physics in China and then transferred into the study of the history of modern physics. So I must make up license of how to conduct research on history of science. I have actively participated in workshops lectures and other activities organized by the Institute for the History of Natural Sciences at the Chinese Academy of Sciences, so where I'm worked now. So I vividly remember the Institute invited Professor Freire from TU Berlin to give lectures on the history of experimental physics. Jens Herup from Denmark gave a series of lectures on ancient mathematics development. So through this experience, it gave me a preliminary understanding of how to approach research in the history of science. So that's my background. Returning to today's roundtable theme, collaborative work and writing. So I believe that for a large-scale collaborative project, the leader plays a crucial role. I think he or she should have the ability to construct a reasonable framework, where the team members should excel in their own respective areas and showed genuine interested in other participants' research topic. So this is the foundation of a successful collaboration. Additionally, cultural differences in research style must be acknowledged. So for instance, I think many East Asia scholars, such as me, tend to be more introverted and less expressive. So I think it's better for the group leader should actively encourage their participation. As far as I am concerned, I think my first and most memorable collaborative project was the study of the IUPAC's 100-year history. So this project was led by Roberto Lalli and Jaume Navarro. I think both of them were exceptional leaders who designed a clear and feasible framework. They also invited scholars from all over the world, and each group concentrated on different topics. And they also provided us with very favorable advice and archive support during our research. Despite this project was conducted during the pandemic, I think we had regular online discussions to exchange progress, which not only deepened our understanding of the whole IUPAC's history, but also broadened our perspective on diverse subjects. So here I must thank Roberto Lalli for led this wonderful project. Besides this, I also have collaborated with other scholars on different research themes. Each bring me a very unforgettable experience. For example, Professor Zhang Baichun, who is the former director of our institute, also he introduced me to the history of science and technology. I think he is excels at discussing a specific case study, but under a broader social context. And Professor Tian Miao, also from my institute, she consistently offers novel ideas which inspired me a lot. So both of them have a long-standing collaborations with Professor Jürgen Ren and Matthias Schemans from the Max Planck Society. So when I was a young scholar, I Professor Ren visit our institute frequently, and I also benefit a lot from their discussion. One of my another collaborator is Professor Hu Danian. I think he is good at detailed studies. His motto is no truth except in the details. So he always reminds me of its importance. So doing history study, you should concentrate on the details. I have also our Japanese collaborator, Professor Hiroshi Ishikawa. I think his writing style is very concise and direct. That's maybe the Japanese style. And I also have a Russian collaborator from Dubna, as Alexei Zemchugin. He is our experimentalist, who is an expert on accelerator and detector. So I think there is an old Chinese thing says, when I work with two others, there must be one whom I can learn from. So this means that we can learn from different collaborators, which will be beneficial for our personal growth. But frankly speaking, I also have confused because each collaborators have their own style. I have to adapt to each collaborator's style. So I have a mixed feeling which style I have to follow. So that's now my current situation. So beyond research collaborations, I think involvement in the international organizations have been another valuable mode of cooperation. So here I'm deeply grateful to the executive committee of the American Physical Society's Forum on the History of and the Philosophy of Physics for their kindness and encouragement during my 2020 to 2023 term. Through this role, I gained insights into how FHPP worked, and I also successively advocated for the Chinese Physical Society to establish a similar forum at its annual conference, which was started last year. So this year we also continue to organize the same forum in the CPS conference. So additionally, thanks to the recommendation from of Roberto Lalli and Calamaro, I joined the IUHPP, and under this organization, I including organized the early career conference and the HQ5, which have been incredible learning experience for me. So by the way, I also remember that I met Professor Olival online for our discussion about the to promote the quantum century, maybe several years ago. So here I also want to thank you for your encouraged words. So that's what I want to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That was very great. So I think we have seen three amazing and very different perspectives. I would say the last one was really like your own biographical experience and the models you had, which was nice to see, like how careers, kind of career trajectories and international collaborations are shaping your work. I was also thankful to Roberto for showing us a lot of like practical things, like sharing on Dropbox and stuff like that, how you do it, the hands-on lessons, and Olival really from the experience and advantage and disadvantage.
This has been a podcast from the Consortium for History of Science, Technology, and Medicine. For more information on this topic, as well as other podcasts, working groups, fellowships, and resources for learning, research, and teaching, please visit www.chstm.org.